Hello and welcome to today's pick a card, which is actually a pick a deck reading. So I tried this out yesterday on TikTok and I actually liked going with different decks for different readings. So thought I would implement that in today's YouTube reading. Also as a general message, because I do felt it was in some ways a message. I tried out a different camera setup today and I did not like it whatsoever. And it was a lot of work. I tried using a completely different setup, different angles, different light, and nope, I did not like it whatsoever. But sometimes we have to try new things out to confirm that we like the old ways. And I just felt like sharing that because while I'm doing something new in letting you choose a deck today without having pulled any oracle cards so far, at the same time I tried something else that was new and I didn't like it. So that's just a general message for everyone to, spice it up every now and then and figure out if you like a new thing, and if you don't, you can always go back to the old ways, as long as the old ways were healthy and worked for you. Okay, so now let's get into these three decks. So first off, this would be group number 1. And I have accompanied these decks with little feathers today. And this is the feather for group 1. A tiny, very reflective feather. All of these come from peacocks. These are all peacock feathers, different stages. And then we have group number 2 will be this deck, which is a beautiful deck. I don't want to show you any images yet because I want to save all the imagery for our reading. And this super airy, fluffy feather, very soft. That is group 2. And in group 3, this is your deck. If you know your way around tarot decks, then I'm sure you already know which one this is. And then this is your feather. Let me show you a good close-up of this one because it is very fluffy at the base, and then at the top you have these beautiful shimmering blues and greens. I hope you can see that properly. It, of course, does not compare to seeing it in real life, but this is like one of the, like around the neck, I think, is where these little feathers come out. Okay, so that is pile or deck number 3. And today we are taking a look at very general messages, just what does Spirit want you to know, which is why I chose the feathers. What does Spirit want you to know? Any kind of guidance or confirmation that Spirit has to you. We're going to try and keep it short and accurate, hopefully. So take a moment to see which pile, which feather, which deck is calling you, and then you can find the timestamps in the description below, and I will meet you at your reading. Hi Group 1, this is going to be your reading if you chose this deck and this little feather. Let me show it to you up close. You see how shiny that is? Okay, so we're going to set the feather aside and we'll get right into your reading. So again, we're keeping this pretty open, just any message that is trying to get through to you, and then we will pull a few oracle cards at the end. Today I felt like pulling them after your reading. Usually I pull them before and then connect them to the reading, but I'm enjoying the idea of letting the energy build. So I'm going to do that. And also I feel like sometimes the oracle cards that come out at the end versus what I pulled at the beginning, Spirit, you know, anytime we receive and translate messages, we are processing them through our filters. So Spirit might have a certain message in mind, but the way that I receive the message might differ slightly. So them then giving me certain cards can trigger something else. And I'm not sure why I'm explaining that to you, but I think that might have to do with the fact that you might be receiving messages already that you are not quite, taking them in. You're not quite digesting them. I am feeling that strongly now. That you're receiving kind of like hints and nudges, and you're not. I'm also now getting this feeling that you might be trying to, when you get hints and nudges and kind of like little messages from your intuition, that you might try to make it fit with your reality instead of taking what you're receiving at face value. That might be for some of you. But let's see what comes out with tarot. I do feel that you are very goal-oriented currently, very future-focused. You seem pretty steady in this energy, but I do want to say don't find some grounding. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it give you anxiety, because this is an energy that can go, this is a very mental energy, and this can go either which way. This can be very inspiring and very motivating, but it can also kind of leave you feeling stuck and feeling like you are not moving, even though you clearly are. But like, it's like having a mind that's running at 100 miles per hour and your physical changes can't keep up. It's like you're really strategizing something, planning something out, and the world around you is sort of struggling to keep up with the mental demands that you are creating for yourself and your environment. Very interesting. Very interesting, because I do feel like you're very focused, which is good. Yeah, look at that. So much mental energy. So in case you can't really see, we have the Two of Wands, the Three of Coins, the Queen of Swords, the Justice card, and now the Ace of Swords. Very much mental and constructive energy, which is beautiful. But we want more of this pentacle energy, because that would mean actual developments and not just plans. But I do like this build up from 2, 3 to a Queen, and then the Justice card, and then the Ace of Wands is really confirming. Spirit is like, yes, you're on the right. It's like this feels very much like you're one of those dogs that can trace scents. And you're like, did I get a whiff of something? And Spirit is like, yes, you did get a whiff of something. Okay, there's 3 cards that just came out. This feels like a little sideline story. So let's take a look. We have the Four of Coins, the Three of Swords, and the King of Wands. This is interesting because this feels like there might be something, like this feels like a new idea, a new venture, and there might be something that in the past you had sort of like an inkling and you held back on it. And because you held back, you felt you missed out on something. You definitely were like, yeah, this could work out, but I'm not putting any effort into it. There's something that did feel like it was calling you, but you didn't put any effort into it, or you felt like you didn't have the time or resources to invest into it. And so it left you like you really missed out. It left you feeling like you really missed out on an opportunity. And so now it might be that because you've missed out on something in the past, you might be in this mental energy of like, I don't know, like, do I have, especially because we have the Justice card here, do I have the right judgment to decide whether this is a good, worthwhile investment or not? You're having a hard time constructing whatever this is, whether that is constructing it on your own or constructing it with other people. It's taking you a lot of discipline. So this card, I don't know if you saw the way it just kind of like flipped out, and the way naturally I feel like I would turn it around, but this feels like it's supposed to be reversed. Yep. That is definitely what I'm getting. So we have the Hermit reversed because Spirit is encouraging you to act upon the things that are kind of swirling around in your head and act upon, I think you are like restraining yourself when it comes to voicing your ideas. If you hear like this really loud squealing in the background, I'm sorry, I have no idea what that is. Very intense though. And now I'm thinking like a squealing sound like that, you know, it feels very mental. Like if you have an idea stuck in your head or like a vision stuck in your head, that kind of feels like the same vibe. But there's definitely this, there's some kind of ego thing that you need to overcome and subject yourself to working with others. Like I think you would rather do it on your own, but Spirit is like, no, you need to come out of the idea of doing it on your own. So I think in the past, because someone else held back or you held back from working with someone, there's something from the past that didn't work out with another party, and so now you're feeling like, well, I'll just do it. I'll just do whatever this new idea is. It does feel separate. Whatever this new version of me is, I'll do it on my own. But Spirit is like, no, that's not the point. Interesting. Interesting. This is very interesting because so at the end of this we have the Justice card and the Five of Wands, and then we have the Devil at the bottom of the deck. This feels like making judgments over people, and it doesn't feel like, okay, first of all, this is for very small few, like maybe for like one person. If you're thinking about going into law, studying law, if you're thinking about changing majors and going into law, yes, absolutely. I think you're a very fierce, analytical person who can definitely, like, this is very much about fighting for others, not just for yourself. If somebody here is thinking about changing their major or studying law, doesn't matter how old you are, this is definitely something that is calling you. Okay, that's for like one person, and if that rang a bell, please leave me a comment. I want to know. But in more general terms, this feels like not letting the past hold you back, not letting... Okay, so again, there was something that didn't work out, and I'm getting like business kind of, this feels very career-like, okay? So there's something where you tried to make something fit, and it didn't fit, and it kind of bruised your ego a little bit, and now you're either back at it from a different angle, or you're trying something completely different, but because your ego was bruised in the past, you're like, I'll do it on my own. I'll only use my own resources. I want to do this on my own. But Spirit is like, yeah, you are very capable, but that's not the point. The point is not to do it on your own. The point is to interact with others, because you have much to gain from interacting and working with others. There is this Spirit, this last part does feel like a warning. Like, don't, because look at how similar their stances are, right? This last part feels very much like, don't let this energy of like, oh, I'll do it on my own because I'm like, who better to satisfy my expectations than me? Don't let that get to your head, because that can turn toxic very quickly. That can turn into like a superiority complex very quickly when you think like, oh, like I can do this so much better on my own. I'll just do it on my own. And then before you know it, you're kind of like left to your own devices. Yeah, see, this feels so much like a warning, because here we have the 6 of coins. Like, Spirit is definitely like, you need to soften up to others a little bit. Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to pull some oracle cards. And again, if you are thinking about going into law or any kind of like adjacent field, this is very much a confirmation of like, yes, this is not just an idea that's coming to you on a whim. This is because that is your calling, because you're meant to serve. You're serving a higher good. It's a very fascinating energy, because I do think that you're very sure of yourself, and you don't need help, but that doesn't mean that you can do it on your own. Does that make sense? You don't need help, but that doesn't mean that you can do it on your own. Sweetness, absolutely. Spirit is like, bring some sweetness, because this is all very like decisive and harsh and very cool energy. And Spirit is like, bring some sweetness, some the word is like on the tip of my tongue. Altruism into your energy. Catching blossoms, which is same vibe, and then this card really wanted to come out, night vision. Night vision, I think, speaks very much to how you are able to do things on your own. But again, that doesn't mean that you are supposed to. Just because you acquired a skill doesn't mean you have to use it constantly. You have to know when to use it. Night vision doesn't work in the daytime, right? That doesn't, I mean, that sounds silly, but it's as simple as that. And catching blossoms, again, is very much about enjoying the efforts, the fruit of your labor. And I think if you do it all on your own, it's hard to get to enjoy. This is very interesting energy, because I think you're very capable and very very well put together. Rebirth For a star to be born, there is one thing that must happen. A gaseous nebula must collapse. Rebirth, I think, is talking a lot about that venture, that idea that you had in the past that didn't work out. That doesn't mean that you don't need to hold on to that. Like you're in a new era of yourself, awakening. Every star was once darker than the night before it awoke. Notice how the subtitles in this are very similar. For a star to be born, there's one thing that must happen. A gaseous nebula must collapse. Every star was once darker than the night before it awoke. Very similar energy here, which really just means, again, I'm seeing this shooting star here, this light beam, speaking very much to the fact that you have something of value to share. You have a cunning mind, and I think there's much that others have to gain from that, and it is on you to open up to others to share that, because people want it. People want the knowledge that you have. It will be very helpful to others, and holding back on it isn't what Spirit wants you to do. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that this resonated. Leave me a comment, because I'm fascinated by you and your energy. So, just noticing the 3-1 and the 13. There's definitely something of, because we have the 3 here as well, there's something about you doing something on your own, but then joining others. And that, because the 3-1, 13, it gives us a 4, which is all about stability. So you doing it on your own, absolutely, you're capable. You are more than capable, but you will gain so much more stability out of doing it with others. With and for others, for the greater good. Okay, now I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Yeah. I am grateful to be on this journey with you. Have a good day. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading if you chose this beautiful, fluffy feather. It is so soft. It is so pretty. We're going to set this right up here. Let's put this other feather to the side. Set this right up here, and then get right into your reading. So we are getting some general messages today, really just taking a look at what does Spirit want you to know, what do they want to confirm, what do they want to nudge you about. Just, we'll see whatever comes out. Okay, and then I'm going to pull some tarot cards, and we'll pull some oracle cards at the end. This came out reversed. I think you just overcame something. You just overcame, you might have just passed some kind of little test. You might have given up something that you really wanted, but you wanted it from kind of like an ego place. You might have given up drinking or drugs or sex. You might have given up a guilty pleasure, and Spirit is definitely recognizing this. I think Spirit is recognizing this, and I don't even think you're recognizing it yourself. You might not be recognizing that they are recognizing that. And I know that's kind of a loop, but I think there's something that you overcame, or you successfully declined, denied. There's something that you didn't fall into an old trap. And Spirit, I think, has been sending you little, you see this little bird in the background? I think Spirit has been sending you like little messages of well done, but because they're not grand gestures, I think you might be overlooking them. Yeah, there's definitely some, you're feeling you're not getting the recognition that you deserve for having overcome this, for having mastered something, for having, okay. I think you have a very specific set of expectations of how your recognition should look, how your nudges from spirit should come in. And meanwhile, they're sending you all these little ones. I think you're looking for like a grand gesture, and you're getting all these little things. And because these little things are adding up, you are noticing them, but you're not able to make any sense of them. I'm specifically getting, you might be seeing a lot of angel numbers. You might be seeing a certain animal over and over. You might be hearing a certain animal over and over. You might be hearing the same song pop up. And it's as simple as it's a confirmation of like, yeah, we're here, keep going. But I think you're expecting a little bit more, and so because of that, you're like, what do these mean? Like, what does it all mean? And Spirit's like, it means, yeah, keep going. Well, we'll see what it means. We'll get some more cards. But this feels very much like you're a little bit confused because you overcame something. At the bottom of the deck, we have judgment. You employed very good judgment, and you thought that it was going to change everything, and it didn't. It didn't change everything. So now you're like, well, was that even worth it? Like, I don't understand. Like, I thought this was like, you know what it feels like? It feels like passing a level in a video game, and you thought it was like the end boss. Like, it was like the, what is that called? Like, you thought it was the final villain that you were defeating. And then as you defeated it, it's like the music starts up again and you're just in the next level. And you're like, am I gonna have to do this for the rest of my life? And I feel like Spirit is like, yeah, that's life. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, and I don't mean to sound like too nonchalant about it, because I don't know what it is that you defeated. I'm absolutely certain it took a lot of effort, and it took a lot of self-love. You put yourself first, you put your needs first. We have the 9 of Cups down here. You really employed honoring yourself, which that just means like, yeah, you did the right thing. Oh, that's too many, please. One at a time. Cups. Interesting. Again, I feel like these little nudges and signs that you're getting, they don't seem like much to you, but I think they're going to add up over time. It's really going to add up. Because we have the Ace of Coins here. There's really something that is it's like a seed that's being planted, and I think you might be at a stage right now where you are currently in like the early phases of an awakening stage, and you might be just starting to recognize more and more when things are really meant for you. And so these little signs, I think, will be adding up. Yeah, Spirit is like, honey, we're moving on to the brighter side of things. Like, you don't need to be in this mentality of like, I did like this hard thing and I don't feel like I got anything out of it. You're not going to feel like you're getting anything out of it until you're way past that point. At some point in time, you will be looking back and you'll realize that was the moment that I first got my blessings. That was the moment when I first started receiving, because I was becoming more aware of my role in things. Because down here we have the Five of Coins and the Six of Swords. You're moving on from this, but it's probably not at the pace that you would like. Yeah, this is so beautiful. You are absolutely going through an awakening. If you've already had your major awakening, then this is just another stage. Again, it's like the next level, right? We have the Hanged Man came out. You're getting so many nudges, and I don't think you're recognizing them, but at some point your perspective is going to change, and you're going to look back and you're like, wow, I was really like getting so much guidance and so many nudges, and so just a beautiful, like, oh, you know what, as I just did this, I'm realizing that that's kind of how. And we have the Magician at the bottom of the deck. Absolutely beautiful. That's kind of how this feather works too, you know, like this. It's so like soft and fluffy compared to, for example, this one, right? I'm trying to show you. When I blow at them, notice how this moves a lot. And the other one, these like the single parts of the feathers are very stuck together, very stiff, like they don't move much, right? So this is kind of what your support from spirit feels like right now. It's little and there's a lot of movement, but I don't think you're not feeling, this insulates as well, right? I just don't think that you're recognizing all the movement that is happening around you. And because you're not recognizing it, you feel like you just did this hard thing and you did it on your own and there was no recognition for it. When in reality, you're not the one recognizing it. They want you to recognize it. They want you to recognize what an awesome job you did. They don't want you to be dependent on them. They don't want you to be dependent on them showing grand gestures of like standing ovations of, wow, you did that thing that really just is kind of like, again, I'm sure it was really difficult for you, but yay, you did that thing that actually is just like basic, you know? Because, and we all have toxic traits that we need to overcome, and once we do overcome those, it's like, oh wow, like I should have done that a long time ago, because now your standards have changed. So their standards for you are higher, and you're just like stepping up to the plate. You're just now showing up. So they're like, we're proud of you, yes, but we're not going to give you like a standing ovation and give you everything you asked for just because you're showing up. You're showing up. That's the first step. And that's amazing. But it's the first step, and you have more to do and you have more to create, and you are really, this is very much like an awakening of letting go of toxic patterns, of egocentric behaviors, and really like stepping into a perspective that is so much healthier. And I think that's beautiful. So I don't want you to feel discouraged at all, because there's no grand signs of motivation telling you, yay, you did it. Sometimes, you know, the 111 on the microwave is all we get. Angel numbers, and again, like little synchronicities that pop up, you know, just to let you know, like, yes, that was the right thing, that was the right choice. But also, you're not supposed to be doing it for the recognition. You're supposed to be doing it for yourself. And you're headed that way. This is really just a confirmation because we have the Hangman. You're absolutely headed that way. You're making sense of this on your own already. I'm just here to confirm that you're moving on from the expectation of wanting confirmations like that. Because you know that you're actually the one that's creating those synchronicities. Death, yes, a big ego death. Absolutely. Absolutely, and I'm very proud of you, and you should be very proud of yourself. Big ego death. The veil, you're lifting the veil. This is absolutely an awakening. I'm so proud of you. It's not easy to do. And we have sweetness and the lovers. We have sweetness and the lovers. This is interesting because this feels very much like you see the synchronicity in these images. And the Nine of Cups is typically a man that sits in front of 9 cups, very, very proud. In this, we have 2 people, because I do think that this is very much, even though it is 2 people and we have 2 lines here, this is very much about self-love, because it's about showing up for yourself the way that you would for another, because you might be expecting someone else to show up for you in that way. Showing yourself love, showing yourself sweetness first, and then creating the space for that to come in from. So this is very much about like not relying on outside validation, creating that validation from within, and then that allows a path for outside validation to come in eventually when you don't depend on it anymore, because you don't need it. You don't need that outside validation from the 5 of coins, because you are able to create your own coins. You have the Ace of Coins down here. You're able to create your own value. So you don't need your value recognized from outside sources. But you need to show yourself some sweetness. We actually had this card come out in the last reading as well. This is so much an ego death, and I want you to really internalize that there's something that you've let go from your ego, that you've overcome. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have to face that in the future. You might have just recently overcome it. That doesn't mean you're forever done with it, right? You might have to overcome that lots and lots of times in your life. But it's important that you show your self-recognition and love and acceptance every time you face that same devil. Because it really is about showing up to the game and showing up for yourself, not for anyone else. Welcome back, Jack. This is not a Nightmare Before Christmas deck. This is just one card in here. Just because I cannot see it doesn't mean I can't. Just because I cannot see it doesn't mean I can't believe it. Friend, that is... Come on, that is exactly what I said. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. And you need to build that trust with yourself and spirit to know when you are on the right path. They can't throw you a Thanksgiving Day float parade every time you make the right choice. You have to be able to make those right choices without that confirmation, relying on the way it makes you feel, because you are the creator of your experience. Welcome back, a total rebirth. You had an ego death and you're back. That is, I mean, the Nightmare Before Christmas, that whole story is a complete ego death. Jack thinks he's not happy, he thinks he can do something else, and he realizes, maybe not. Maybe I should just stick to what I'm good at. Which kind of connects to what I was saying with my camera setup. Awakening. Did I not say that? Did I not say that? You are absolutely going through an awakening. Every star was once darker than the night before it awoke. Again, not saying this is your first awakening, but this is something that you are awakening to that you weren't aware of before. And it's beautiful and it's super empowering, and it's going to teach you how to refuel yourself, like how to keep yourself motivated without external influence. Absolutely beautiful, and I'm super proud of you, and I think that this is just the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much for sharing some time with me. I hope I get to read for you again sometime, and I am grateful to be on this journey with you. Bye. Hi, Group 3. This is your reading. If you chose this super cute, oh, there we go, there's some nice shine. Super cute, tiny peacock feather with the green and blues on top and the fluffy fluff on the bottom. We're going to set this right up here, and then we are getting right into your reading. So we are doing a pretty general look at what Spirit wants you to know right now. So this is lots of things. This can be lots of things. This is all about something they want to confirm, something they want to nudge you towards. We will see. It all depends on how the cards come out. We're going to pull some tarot first, and then we will pull some oracle cards at the end. So let's take a look. For pile 3, group number 3. We have the Knight of Cups, and we have the King of Wands. Very motivated energy. And we have the Four of Coins. Interesting. You're emotionally motivated and you are driven, and yet there is something that you're holding back. And we have the Eight of Coins, and I think you're holding back because you think it's not ready yet, or it's not good enough. I think there's something that you're like, no, I need to perfect this. I need to perfect this. And it might be some type of offer, some type of idea. Okay, this is just like popping in my head randomly, so this is for one person. If you're thinking about starting some kind of spiritual business and you feel like you're not well equipped yet, or not in a place of authority, follow your gut. We have the Hierophant under. There's an emotional tie to there's an emotional connection to a belief that you are exploring, and I think there's a lot of things that you have overcome. There's a lot of obstacles that you've managed, and those have given you some confidence, and yet you're holding back. Yeah, I don't think it feels like you don't feel like you're ready. You don't feel like I don't know why, but I'm getting this imagery of having like some baking bread and having the bread in the oven and feeling like, no, I can't take it out yet. It's not ready yet. It's not completely risen. This is an emotional issue. Yeah. Spirit wants you to overcome any kind of insecurities that you have when it comes to self-worth. This is an emotional issue that you're facing. And you do have to face this and you do have to overcome this in order to be ready. So perhaps you are correct in terms of the bread, the loaf is not ready to, like the loaf is not done yet, but I do think the loaf is ready to come out of the oven. You know how sometimes when you have something in the oven, you can't keep it in the oven any longer because it'll get tough, and you take it out and then you let it sit, and the heat that it contains itself is what finishes the product. I hope that makes sense to someone because that's what I'm getting. It feels like you're very close to being ready, and the only thing that's holding you back from being ready for something, whatever it is that's on your mind, is the fact that you have to overcome the thought that you're not ready. I can very much, absolutely very much identify with this. Just feeling like, no, I need to perfect this. And it's totally, we have the moon under the 8 of coins, and there's like this sense of like, this is an emotional need that you have to feel completely prepared, absolutely prepared for every possible outcome of this situation. So because of that, you're holding back. Notice that the Hanged Man, especially here, he is holding on to this rope that is holding him. And in this depiction specifically, he looks like he's about ready to be done up there, right? He's about ready to get down. And yet you're holding back. You're holding back on this because you're like, no, I'm not. I don't have all the kinks figured out yet. But emotionally, you followed your intuition. When it comes to something spiritual, when it comes to something that's calling you, when it comes to something, whether that is a spiritual venture, whether that is a love interest, something that is emotionally, intuitively really calling you and satisfying to you, that makes you feel like you've overcome things to be ready for it. You are very much ready. The only thing that's holding you back is the idea that you think you're not ready. And that is very much, we have the Knight of Swords. That is very much a mental energy that you have to tackle. That is a mental situation that you have to address. And it's interesting because it's like the shackles that are holding you stuck are emotional. And the sword is going to be the mental ability of you to undo those emotional shackles. So it's totally justified that you feel whichever way you feel, because it is an emotional, it comes from somewhere, right? It's not just you blindly self-sabotaging yourself. You feel this way for a reason. You feel you have this perfectionist ideal for a reason. So tackling that with your wit, with your knowledge, your self-knowledge, that is what Spirit wants you to do. Take a moment to analyze, okay, why, even though I've gone through all this process, I've made all this progress, why is it that I don't feel like I'm prepared? What is holding me back? What makes me feel unprepared? What is the worst that could happen? And I'm really not someone to typically advise to use logic against emotions, because that doesn't really get you anywhere. But this is what Spirit is saying in this case, to try and make sense of the emotional mud that you're stuck in with from an intellectual perspective. Yeah, we have the 6 of Swords underneath that, which is very much about then moving on with the knowledge that you've gained from really taking this situation apart. This is a very straightforward reading. I love it. Again, this is very much about you feeling like you have to be perfect. And if this is some kind of, I'm getting strongly like a venture of some kind, of something that really lights your fire. And if this is, if this should be a love motivated conflict, then I think that this is about you holding back from engaging in topics around love because you feel like you need to be a better person, you need to work on this, you need to work on that, whether that is your emotional state or your physical state, anything like that. You just feel like, no, I need to iron out these kinks before I can be in a relationship with someone. But this spread is very clearly saying, like, that's not the point. That's not how this works. You don't need to be perfect. First of all, you don't need to be perfect to be loved. Second of all, you don't need to be perfect to be in a relationship. But you do need to sit down and comprehend why you feel that you need to be perfect. You need to understand where that is coming from. Okay, I'm going to pull some oracle cards. I'm really surprised at how straightforward this message is. Yeah, you need to understand, because you've been well prepared. It's like you've gone through some kind of training. If this is like career focused, you've gotten certifications, you've gone through training, and you are absolutely capable of doing what it is that you technically are being called to, wanting to do, and yet you're holding yourself back. Because you feel like there's more to learn. There's always more to learn. Always. You're never going to be done learning. You're never going to be done evolving. But that can't stop you from taking action. Treasure. I don't know why, but that I get this card every now and then, but this is the first time I've gotten this card, and I immediately hear that Bruno Mars song. Treasure, if you let me treasure you. Yeah, this feels very much like you're holding back. Again, if you're holding back in a romantic sense, you know, there are people that will treasure you, and you're holding back because you don't see it happening, because you don't see yourself as perfect. And yet you don't have to be perfect to be treasured. Keep watch. Ooh, interesting. I've had this deck for a while and I've never gotten this card. Keep watch. This is very much giving a vibe of being aware of your surroundings, being aware of... This is interesting because we have two birds here and then a snake, but the snake is coming like out of the eggs. This is very much connecting for me to this idea of really keeping an eye. Notice how you can only see this knight's eyes. Keeping an eye on your habits and on what you produce and what you emotionally, because an egg is very, right, it's a very sensitive it's a very, I don't know why I can't get the words out. It's a very sensitive object. That's a very interesting card. So really keeping an eye on... I don't feel any threat from this card. Like, I don't feel like it's a warning. It feels like, take a look at what's in your nest. Take a look at what you are breeding in your nest. What you are Especially when we think of this Four of Coins, right? Imagine if she's in a nest and these coins are eggs, and it's like, no, I don't want to give up my eggs. I don't want to, I'm protecting these. I'm holding on to this. I'm protecting this. And this card is very much like, take a look. What is it that you're actually protecting? What is it that you're actually clinging onto here? Because there's something that is worth releasing. Psychic Eye. Told you, if there's some kind of spiritual calling that you have, you know that it's time to release this energy. At the bottom of the deck we have dive in. You absolutely know, you can feel this. So that's why this Hanged Man is very much like, okay, I'm ready to let go of this. But your perfectionism is holding you back. This emotional security, like your perfectionism is giving you some kind of emotional security. It's like, well, if I'm never ready enough, then I don't have to worry about what it feels like to actually dive in, to actually do it, right? I would definitely recommend doing some journaling about this, especially because we have the Knight of Swords. Writing down, like, how are you feeling? What is it you're trying to accomplish? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best that can happen? And taking a look at how realistic is what you're writing, because that's the thing. Sometimes when we write out the worst that we're expecting, you read it back and you're like, this sounds so silly. Interesting. What you are asking for requires more time. The distinction between the past, present, and future is only a stubborn, persistent illusion. This is so interesting because I feel like this absolutely confirms what I was saying, is that the only thing that is holding you back is the fact that you think it's not ready yet. Because it does say what you're asking for requires more time, but that's because you still have to go through that process of that last hurdle of like, okay, I'm ready. Emotionally, I'm ready because I've understood now why I was holding back so long. Because then the subtitle says the distinction between the past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. This is something you're telling yourself. Fascinating. Stay centered. Meditation and concentration are the way to a life of serenity. Absolutely confirming. To journal, meditate, try to understand when your emotions are leading you, when your emotions are governing your decisions. You are absolutely well prepared to do whatever it is that you are heading towards, but you do need to overcome this idea that you are not well prepared. I think that is something that you need to address head on, so that then it's like you're perfectly prepared. It really feels like, you know, if you live in like a cold area, you might know this experience. When you are dressed, it's snowing outside, it's freezing cold, and you're dressed head to toe, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to face the cold, I'm well prepared. And you walk out and you don't have your gloves on. This feels very much like the last thing you have to do is put on your gloves, like feeling completely prepared and then putting on your gloves, having that protection all around. I don't know where that comparison just came from, but it feels right. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I hope this made sense to you. It absolutely makes sense to me. I do feel like I can resonate with this to an extent. We are our worst critics. I think you are absolutely ready to face, again, like it's like, yes, you're absolutely ready to face, and yet you're not, because that putting on your gloves, that last thing to make you 100%, you're like 99.9% ready. And that last part of a percentile that is missing is you to emotionally, to address why you feel like emotionally you're not ready yet. Addressing that then immediately opens the gates and you're ready. And you're ready to go. You're ready to boogie. I don't know why I said that. These things just come out. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Till then, take care.